Today we're going to talk about the history of science from beautiful feet. It is a literary approach to scientific principles and their discoveries for immediate grades. And I get to have Abram here with me today. Normally it's just me showing you all curriculum. Abram actually picked this curriculum. What made you decide? We haven't kind of went over this. Maybe we should have, but what made you pick this curriculum?
Well,
basically I showed him beautiful feet. We've never used it. I got on YouTube, was looking for videos, only found like one or two, and so I thought I'm gonna do one after we get started. So we've never used beautiful feet. Why did you pick this curriculum?
I was excited to have a chance of doing science experiments, and you can do a lesson over a few days or in a short amount of time, so it's very stretchable.
Flexible.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So basically we don't do a lot of science experiments. So I think he thought, we went through phases of doing science experiments, and then it's just a lot of work. And my mom's a science teacher, so I'm like, Nana can do the science experiments with you. So he saw the science experiments. He really loves science. So he thought, a history curriculum and a science curriculum together would be great. So it sounds like experiments, the fact that it was science, the fact that it was flexible, that it could be student-led. We were discussing earlier that you liked it because it was independent. Like you don't have to have me sit down with you to teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have lots of kids, and
it takes a little while for her to get to.
It does, and we're expecting another one. So a lot of times, if he can do something on his own, then we will let him. So this is for 4th to 7th grade. I think it's pretty. I think the stuff that it's so far, we've only done the first couple, lessons. But looking at the books and the things, I think if you were 7th, 8th grade, maybe a 6th grader, you can pretty much do most of it on your own, especially with some handouts I'm going to show you later, which are not from Beautiful Feet, and I think that they are a wonderful addition, and I'm going to try to figure out how to get them to you all or tell you kind of where I found them. So I feel like if you were doing it as a family, I could potentially do this with younger kids and my older kids. It's kind of a lot of reading, I think, but they could potentially do it. But for us, I wanted to give him an intro into biology, chemistry, and physics before high school, and I wanted to give him some independence just to see how kind of well he does. And like I said, he doesn't always like to wait on me, which I don't blame him. Something else I was thinking about is the flexibility of sometimes you'll do your reading at bedtime, right?
Yeah.
So when we got the books, we ordered it, and he waited every day by the door. Didn't you? Were you excited?
Kind of.
And he said, can I start it this summer? So we bought it for next year. He's already started reading. And we do the summer reading program. Last year he read 60 hours or more. It was a lot. I can't remember what it was, but a lot of hours. He was like, I can use these for summer reading. And we read it. A lot of times they read, a couple hours before they go to sleep. So he was excited to do that. So that is kind of nice. What he said, we're kind of jumping the gun, but a lesson can be anywhere from, online it said an hour. I think maybe if you're doing it on your own, if I was using it as an instructor's guide and I was doing it with my children, then maybe an hour. But for him, I think it would be typically longer than an hour. So he'll do his reading at night, and then the next morning he'll do his lesson work. So that's why it's kind of, you can do it in a day, you can do it in 2 days. There are 85 lessons. That puts it at 2 lessons per day, 1 lesson for every 2 days to take the whole year. So I think you can make it go longer or shorter, just depending on what you like. So now that we've given you a little teaser, I'm going to jump into showing you a little bit about each book. Also, it starts in ancient Greece and it goes all the way to 1990. So covers pretty good. I'm going to show you the timeline too so I can get it out of the way. Do you want to hold and show them your timeline? Whichever one it is. So here is, you get a packet. I'm going to use this for more than one student, so we made copies. So you get your packet like this, and then it has each scientist that you're going to do, and then that's just the first page. There's a bunch of them. And then at the end, it shows you kind of like where to stick them on the 2 timelines that you're given and what it will look like at the end. So we printed it, and then he's going to color it later. And we may even stick it like in the back of one of these to hold on to it. So, you want to show it to him?
I just started it, so.
Yep, so he's only done one, but so far, again, we're kind of skipping ahead, but I want to get you in so that if you need to leave, you can go do something else. So far about the lessons, do you feel like they've been too difficult, too easy, about the right, like as far as the lessons and the reading?
They're pretty good. They're not too hard and they're not too easy, so you have lots of reading to do and lots of experiments on every other lesson, I'm pretty sure.
Well, so far I think experiment was on lesson 3. So I don't know how many. We haven't got that far through the book, but I think there are at least 12 experiments. So I wouldn't think it's every other, but there's a good amount of experiments. So what else? So you don't think it's too hard? Mm-mm. Like you haven't felt overwhelmed by it? No. Do you feel like the workbook has helped?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for him, he's in 6th grade currently. I think if it weren't for the notebook, I think he would struggle a lot. So I'm going to wait till the end to show you the notebook. But I think if it weren't for the notebook, you would struggle. You think because you'd have to get all your own paper and kind of figure out. So each lesson, which I'm going to go through a lesson in a minute, but when he gets each lesson, it has, a lot of them has a page that goes with it. So it makes it easier for him to kind of do. So I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, anything else you want to say about it? Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to talk, and then if you want to, like, sneak away, you can sneak away. Or you can be my Vanna White and hold all of my stuff. Okay, so you should get a timeline, 13 books, and Your Story Hour, Heritage Series, Alexander Graham Bell. So if you do not know Your Story Hour, it's amazing. You should totally check them out. We love basically anything audio. So a plug for, what are the audios? Oh, Adventures in Odyssey and Well-Trained Mind. All of their audiobooks by Jim Wise are amazing. So if you want a great passive learner, get those. It's amazing. So when I saw this, we were all really excited. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through Benjamin Franklin, Archimedes and the Door of Science, the story of Thomas Alva Edison, and then, so just a chapter book, pretty normal. That's why reading level wise, I feel like older kids could do really well with it, but younger, I think they would, I don't know, I feel like 1st grade would get a little tired of listening to it, but maybe not. We read a lot of books that are kind of over our younger kids' heads, but they just still, they pick up what they can. So anyways, I love all the pictures in this book. So yeah, super cute books. Right now I think I'm just going to put stickers on them to label them, and he has them all in a book or all in a box, and he just keeps up with his box. Pasteur, Marie Curie, Isaac Newton, another, let's see, Ordinary Genius, Albert Einstein, and I'm going to save this one out, The Way Science Works. So you can, another thing that I do like about Beautiful Feet, and like I said, we've never used it, this is our first time, but something that intrigued me was that this, you could just buy this, and you could do like the timeline, and then you could theoretically, depending on your library, check out all of these books. So I loved that. The picture, History of Great Inventors, the Wright Brothers. Yeah, see, this is a lot of words. but he does really love nonfiction. So he picked it, and I was like, okay, George Washington Carver, and then Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, so that is all of the books. That one's a pretty picture book. So yeah, so that is all of the books in it. I now will show you a lesson. I'm going to go through a lesson, and the only reason that I bought the books is because I thought I'll be able to use it with our other kids. And we can request any of the books that we don't have. We can request through our library and get. The only problem with that is that some of these books, like I think this one I think has all the experiments and some of the things in it. So you'll need this like all year. So you can't really check out a book from your library and then keep it all year long, especially if it's an interlibrary loan. Maybe your library does that, maybe they don't, I don't know. So I pulled these 3 books out to show you the first lesson. So the first lesson that he did, he needed all 3 of these books. He took them to bed, and as a way to kind of make it easier for him, we made a note. So we did I made 3 boxes. So it's the first 3 lessons, and it's chapter 1 and 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. So when he does it, he checks it off so that it kind of helps him know. And the sticky tab keeps you in the book so that every single time you go through, you don't have to find it. Again, not something that's like, mandatory, obviously. So yeah, so he was here at Archimedes, and he checked off that he did it, and I left room to add stuff to later. And then the way science works. So he actually is about to do his first experiment. We got everything out and ready, and then we realized, which was good, we showed him this is what happens in science, but one of our bottles wasn't working correctly, so we had to wait and get another bottle, and then we just kind of put it off from doing it. But when he got it, he was doing it like really quickly. Okay, so the book here, if you choose not to purchase all of the books with it, it does have, after the introduction, it gives you a list of the books. So it'll show you all of the books that you need, a little bit about them. So that way, if you need to purchase them used or find them somewhere else, you can do that. I also really liked, this is faith-based, there was a quote from Louis Pasteur, and it says, "A little science estranges man from God, but much science leads him back to him." Albert Einstein said, "The more I study science, the more I believe in God." And so I thought it was really neat that this was faith-based. And so some of you need to be aware, if you don't want faith-based, this is faith-based. I saw a review, I think, of somebody else doing Beautiful Feet, and said maybe like I don't know, they were somewhere else. So maybe they were able to buy books and then give those books back. So if you did that, it needed to be books without scripture in them. I have no idea. I don't believe, other than those, I don't believe that the scripture is actually in the book. I think it gives the reference, and then your kid looks them up. So if you're doing a secular thing or you're not faith-based, then I don't think it will affect you. But me, as a believer, I really like that it was faith-based, especially science. And she does, like, she goes through different topics and says that she's just going to share them, and then it's up for the parent to kind of discuss how they want to discuss it. So anyways, I love that it's faith-based. I love that it just kind of ties it in and goes back to it. And he does in the beginning of his notebook, how cute, the history of science. He has his verses already. So it'll tell you, find the verse, write it down, and so he's just going to keep them in the front of his notebook. History of science discovery, and then one of the first lessons, it has them decorate a page for the ancient Greeks, and then I'll show you the lesson when we get there. Okay, so lesson 1, it says begin, and basically it's just basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so just a couple on each page. Origin of the universe, that's what I was talking about. She just kind of gives all 3 theories, has questions to kind of help lead parents, and they go from there. Okay, So it says, begin with a picture of great inventors. So he took this and he read pages 9 through 12. Then it says, and you could even copy this, put it in their notebook, and have them check off as they've done it. I don't really want him writing in the book, so I think it would be good. I mean, it has the date where you could like write in it, but I don't want to write in it yet. So I told him not to mark it, but if he needs to at some point, he can always print it, put it in his notebook, and mark it off. But so far, it's been fine. Basically, he does it, and then when it says discuss this, then he'll bring it to me and he'll be like, okay, Mom, let's discuss, or we'll look at a lesson just to kind of make sure that he's got it. Especially the first couple, I've really checked just to make sure, you know, I don't want to be halfway through the book and then be like, oh, you don't understand. So in the science portfolio, it says color the ancient Greek, color an ancient Greek page, decorate, you can put pictures of Greek inventors or whatever on it. Then it says read and discuss chapters 1 and 2 of Archimedes and the Door. Teachers, you may find the introduction helpful. Discuss the process of scientific discovery as described on page 4 and 5. Trace the development of one ancient discovery from its first use until now. One example would be the wheel, first used on carts, now in transporting spaceships. Add this to your science portfolio. So this is a Google document I actually found on, I don't remember the exact name of the group, but it's a Beautiful Feet, maybe parents page, and one of the moms on there graciously gave this Google document. I'm not 100% sure how Google Documents work. I don't know if I can leave you all the link or if you can go on the Facebook page and get it. It's on the Facebook page. So somehow I will try to tell you in the description below how to find it. But I think this is by far, I think it enhances the curriculum tremendously if they're going to do it on their own. Again, if you're doing it, not a big deal. But for him to just take it and do it, it's amazing. So she gives you a template basically, and then he went in and, you know, drew the first wheel, next wheel later, and then wrote about each one. So that was really helpful. This page I was a little confused by, so he has to go back and do it, but he wrote out the Greek alphabet, but this was letters or numbers, so I wasn't for sure. So we just recently looked, and he should have each alpha, beta, gamma, all of those are associated with a number, so he should have put those beside. So we are going to go back and do that. A page for Pythagoras, he wrote about him, and then we wrote the formula and displayed it on the bottom. This is the part I just think is so cool. So for 7 Wonders of the World, they could just like list it on a page, write it down. I think that's lesson 2 or 3. Sorry, no, this is like lesson 4 or 5 because he's not done it. Duh. So instead of doing that or having to print it, like each individual one, it's all done for me. So yeah, for him, I just had to print the packet, and then we hole punched it and he got it ready. So 7 Wonders of the World, 3 classes of levers, a Bible verse, questions, Aristotle. So she has a page, and then medieval, she has a page for like every scientist. Da Vinci, Galileo, Franklin's inventions, yeah, so it goes all the way through. Alexander Graham Bell, all these people. Albert Einstein. Okay, so then we get over to common scientific observations, experiments, and lab reports. There are, I'll show you the back in a second, there are 3 printouts for experiments and lab reports. I'll show them to you now. In the very back of this book. So you have 85 lessons. And then when you get there, it says, ta-da, congratulations. There's an answer key for some of the lessons, lesson 9, 13, 24 to 70. And then you have your scientific method lab report. So again, this is handy. You can just copy that. You don't have to have this handy notebook from Facebook. And it was free, by the way. Like, you don't even have to go in there and buy it from the individual. Probably you're familiar with Google Documents and know that. But it's not like teacher paid teacher or anything. She just offered it for free because she made it for her kids. So awesome. Microscopic microscope report, and then experiment appendix. So, sorry, I'm trying to talk fast. So there are extra things back there, but she has made them. And the one thing that I thought was really handy, because it's like she knows children, Abram would have struggled with this. He would have not liked that there were no lines, because he would have wanted it to, fit in there, and he would have struggled maybe with his spacing. And so this is brilliant. It has lines for you. So again, something small, not a big deal. Can you do the book without this? Yes. If you don't want your kid to do pages, great. But, he's done several of them. Okay, last thing. Last tab, glossary of scientific terms. Again, so handy. I'm so glad that I found this, because I was like, man, he would have struggled. She has put out, not in alphabetical order. I kind of wish it was alphabetical order, but again, for ease of use, your 5th or 6th grader, maybe they're more independent, could probably do it. Because, not that they can't find it in alphabetical order, but just the ease of, like, he took this page out of his book. A lot of times he'll take the pages out, and then he'll sit here at the table and he'll work it. So that's just really nice not to have to flip back and forth. So I'll show you that in a minute, but too much to show you, so much. All of his things, again, he could have gotten a piece of paper, he could have written it down, but just having it spelled correctly and nice and neat is really good, I think, and that will make it easier for him to go back and look at. Okay, so that was lesson 1. It also said, I forgot this one, the way science works. You're going to read pages 6 and 7, and that's it. Just kind of an introduction to, because I haven't marked anymore, but just an introduction to science and how it works. So he took these 3 books, he took them to bed, he read them. The next day he came, he discussed with me Archimedes in the door. We talked about the wheel after he had already done it, and that's a wrap. He did it. And Proverbs 1, 2 through 7. So he did all of that, and then the next day you were supposed to find a map. You were supposed to draw a map. He just used the map that was given, circled the portion that it needed. You do the Greek alphabet. You define a couple words, do another Bible verse, and then that's where you look up Pythagoras' theorem, and you start on the history timeline. So every day is a little bit different so far. I'll be curious how varied it is as we go, but for now it is different. So the first day he did more reading, and then he kind of uses the reading the next couple of days, and then he reads a little bit more. Here he just referenced the book, but he didn't have any new reading pages. And then here he defined 5 more words, and then we had a discussion portion. So we had a discussion portion, and then he had 3 pages to read from The Way Science Works. And then he's supposed to perform his lab. So that is as far as he's gotten. I think he may have went on to the reading of the next portion. So you do a science lab and report on lesson 3. He was so excited. And then the next one, you get to do another little experiment already on lesson 4. So this one looks like you need a beaker of water, heat source, butter, chocolate. So this one sounds like it's going to be tasty. So we have gotten 3 or 4 lessons in. Maybe this is, I don't know. Some of you may be saying this is way too in-depth, and some of you may be saying it's not in-depth enough. If you want something specific, leave me a comment and let me know, and I would be glad to show you more or even do an update as we get through. But so far I've been really pleased. I feel like it's been great. Anytime that you get buy-in from kids and they're really excited to learn, I think it's a win-win, because if they don't like it, you can say, well, you picked it. You picked it. Something I did not cover, someone asked me, a friend that we were talking to about it, she said, do you still need to do a history curriculum or like a science? Because technically, Beautiful Feet is history, but this is the history of science. So she was asking. So for me, I mean, you're writing, you're obviously studying history, and you're studying science. So for me, for this year, that will be his history and his science curriculum. I think it's enough. If after we're done with it, I'm like, oh, this isn't enough, then I'll tell you. But these are a lot of chapter books. I feel like this is pretty good. Honestly, depending on how much time you took with it, I mean, it's basically literature. Some of you may not like that, but depending on how loosey-goosey you are, this could cover a lot of your literature, at least for your reading portion, and then, you know, throw in some writing. Like you could just add in journaling about what it is that they're reading, their thoughts, throw in some papers, use some, you know, pull out some grammar. We actually use Michael Clay Thompson. If you want to see a video on Michael Clay Thompson, I have a couple of those videos, and I'm about to do a new one. But yeah, we'll use Michael Clay Thompson grammar and Michael Clay Thompson probably poetry and vocabulary. So he'll do that. This will probably be his reading portion for this year. I don't think the books for Michael Clay Thompson this year, I think are too, I don't want him to read yet. So I think this will be his reading, this will be his science, his history, and then we'll throw in some more language arts. I feel like it's pretty good. So yeah, so we'll see how long it takes him, and if we change our mind and hate it by the end, I'll tell you. But so far, I'm expectant and hopeful, and hopefully this is enough for those of you who've kind of on the fence or trying to decide what to do. Maybe this will be helpful for you. Thank you for checking out our video.